Hi there, my name is Erin Akey, and this video is the intro to my blog all about my journey with fluoroquinolones. And gosh, I don't even know where to start. It's a topic that so many people don't know anything about, but also that so many are dealing with and have no idea that this is what they're dealing with. So I decided I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm going to be vulnerable. There might be some tears, but this is it. This is raw. This is real. This is my life. And if I can help anyone else out there, any families who are dealing with this, then great. I'll cry some ugly tears. I'll look a hot mess and pour my heart out to you. So, a little bit of background. I'm a pretty healthy person, never had any medical issues, never really took any prescriptions in my lifetime, except after I had gastric bypass surgery, I developed a little bit of an ulcer. I had broken my back and had to take a lot of ibuprofen, and NSAIDs are really bad for someone who's had gastric bypass, so that developed into an ulcer. So for a time I was on some ulcer meds, discovered these great supplements after I broke my back and regained some weight called Plexus, and I feel like they've kept my body and my gut pretty healthy. So where does my story begin? Well, back in March of this year, 2016, I had to go in and have a revision of a spinal fusion from when I had broken my back. They were taking old hardware out that my body was rejecting, and they were going to put new hardware in. And so when the old hardware came out, it was discovered that it was infected with staph, which is why the hole in my back would not close for 2 years. I dealt with this for 2 years. So in order to treat that, they tried some different antibiotics, and they gave me oral Cipro. After the third day of oral Cipro, I could no longer tolerate it. It just made me throw up. It was terrible. So they took me off of it and gave me something different, which worked. Cleared up that infection beautifully. The hole in my back where they put the new hardware in and did new bone grafts, it just healed beautifully. Dr. Clinton Howard, the spinal specialist who took care of me, amazing doctor. Well, during that surgery, they also had to come in through the front and have another doctor assist Dr. Howard because I had such a compacted and mangled nerve, my sciatic nerve. And so as that wound in the front began to heal, it began to get very hard, very red, very painful. So long story short, I go back into the hospital in April for another procedure to remove a huge mass of infection from that incision. In the hospital with that procedure, I picked up the germ Pseudomonas. They sent me home with IV infusions of Levaquin. I went home with a PICC line, home health. I was having IV infusions 3 times a day, and I did have a reaction to several drugs. And I want to start by saying that the infectious disease doctor who took care of me was wonderful. And I in no way blame him for anything that has happened, because I think the FDA is not as upfront and forthcoming about the risks of these drugs as they should be, so the doctors are not educated. There's no doctor that wakes up and says, "Who can I poison today?" It's not like that. He's a fantastic doctor, and I know I was a hard case. I had reactions to a lot of things, but vancomycin ended up working really well without these dangerous side effects of the fluoroquinolones. So, third day on Levaquin, I wake up, and the backs of my legs are so sore I can barely walk. And I thought, this feels like when we would do half marathons before I broke my back. You know how after a half marathon, you're just real sore. And I thought, that's strange. I'm home with home health and a PICC line and getting IV infusions 3 times a day. And I just had spinal fusion. I'm not walking around a lot. I shouldn't be this sore. So a couple of more days went by, and it got progressively worse. My vision started to get a little blurry, and I didn't know if maybe that was from the pain medicine from the back surgery or what, but I hadn't had any reactions to that in the hospital. So on a whim one night, I was laying in bed talking to my husband, and I was in so much pain. I said, I'm just going to Google Levaquin and leg pain because that's the only thing different, and I'm a researcher. So shock is the only thing I can use to describe what I found. Total and utter shock. There were hundreds of articles that came up about people who had ruptured tendons after Levaquin and things like that. So I thought, okay, I've got to stop using this. I want to get back to running one day. Called the doctor. They took me off of it. Ended up, I don't remember what they changed my infusions to. But no more Levaquin, no more Cipro. I didn't know they were in the same family of drugs. They were cousins. I had no idea. So a few weeks go by, and I'm starting to get better as far as the infection goes, but now I'm starting to have terrible joint pain. I've never had joint pain in my life. When I was 350 pounds, I didn't have joint pain. The fingers, my wrists, my elbows, my shoulders, my jaw joint, all these joints. Nobody thought it could anything about it. Just thought maybe I was having some soreness or something from the surgery. Then I started having severe numbness and tingling in my fingers, in my feet. It would go up into my hands, and not just one, but both, like pins and needles and like little, like fire just sticking into my hands. So I started doing a little bit more research. And I very quickly found out that there are hundreds of thousands of people who take these fluoroquinolone drugs and have these same type reactions. And the problem is you can stop the drugs. You can only have had one dose of the drug. And the problem is that in many cases, all of these symptoms do not start for a long time later for some people. And so you may not associate what's going on with the drugs. In my situation, it was all within a few weeks. Sometime in late May, I started noticing that I would mix up words. I would mean to say one word and I would say another, and my husband would kind of go, huh? And just look at me. And I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, okay, I'm really busy. I'm trying to get back into the swing of work after this surgery. And praise God, by the grace of God, I'm a full-time Plexus ambassador, so I work from home. If I were in the traditional workforce, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how people with fluoroquinolone toxicity go to a 9-to-5 job every day when there are some days when you can barely crawl out of the bed. So I started mixing up words, and that has progressively gotten worse. My husband, one of my best friends that sees me all the time, it's a little more noticeable for them. For the rest of my Plexus team that I don't see very often, it's not as noticeable, but it's getting worse to the point where it's part of why I'm making this video. I want my friends and my family and my coworkers to know that if you're talking to me and I just say something crazy, or if I all of a sudden start speaking really slowly, I'm catching what I'm doing and I'm correcting myself. And it's very odd because it doesn't happen when I'm writing or typing. It's only when I'm speaking. So it's something to do with the way the brain and the speech, that whole connection, which I don't fully understand. Very similar to someone who's had a stroke. Not as severe, and I've never had a stroke. So my spinal surgeon is a fabulous man, and he has been trying to find me a local doctor who's familiar with fluoroquinolone toxicity so I wouldn't have to go all the way to Atlanta to see someone. And so I finally have a really good neurologist who gets it. And here's the problem. About 4 weeks, I think, after I quit taking the fluoroquinolones, the FDA issued new warnings about the drugs. In the past, fluoroquinolone drugs have had a black box warning, but what it said was there's a chance of tendon issues and tendon rupture and peripheral neuropathy or nerve damage, usually in people who are very ill or over the age of 60. Well, I'm clearly not over the age of 60, 45, but it was so much deeper than that. And so finally, May 12th, which is my 10-year anniversary, the FDA issued a new warning. And for me, it was a little too late. For lots of people, it was a little too late, warning that The fluoroquinolone drugs can cause mitochondrial toxicity, where that does not manifest in some people for years, where it is actually just killing the mitochondria in your cells, and people are developing speech problems, fibromyalgia, MS, RA, ALS, joint problems, tendon problems, so many things that you just would never imagine came from taking an antibiotic. And I want you to think about something. Think about, this drug has been on the market for 20, 30 years. It was mainly created to treat anthrax. It can treat and prevent anthrax. It's that strong. But doctors are passing it out like candy because it's a quick, easy fix for things like sinus infections. Now, my infection was serious. I totally get that. I do not blame the doctor who gave it to me in any way. Could he have used some other things? Yes. Do I think he knew how dangerous this drug was? No. Do I hope that I've educated him? Yes. But when people are using this class of drugs for sinus infections and things like that, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's heart-wrenching to read the stories of people who lost their lives or are in wheelchairs. And by the grace of God, that's not me. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on with me. And I want to keep it real. I want people to know, number one, how blessed I am that I have a job where I can work from home. And number two, how blessed I feel that my situation so far is not nearly as bad as a lot of people. I'm not wheelchair bound by any means, but it's very debilitating. Every single morning, I wake up with severe pain in all down the backs of my legs. It's like someone has taken your muscles and they're just wringing them and wrenching them, and it's more down the backs of my legs than it is the front. Why? Don't know. Every single day, I have this numbness and tingling in my fingers and hands. It's not pain. That's not terribly painful, but it's very, very annoying. From day to day, I never know if I'm going to have this severe joint pain. And it's always from the waist up. It's fingers, wrists, elbows, shoulders, neck, jaw. The joint pain is never in the legs. Again, don't know why. Couldn't tell you why. My vision in a matter of 3 weeks, or I'm sorry, 3 months, regressed 3 prescription strengths. Luckily, my doctors knew what my body needed, and they said, you need a really good probiotic, you need a magnesium supplement, you need a potassium supplement, you need a good B12 supplement. Check, 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 everything but the potassium. I get in plexus, so I'm taking a lot extra of our probiotic, of our BioCleanse magnesium supplement, of our X Factor vitamin with B12, and I had to buy potassium, and I take a lot of potassium also because the fluoroquinolones deplete all of those things from your body. So some days, like last night, the pain in my joints and in my legs was so bad that I was in tears. And the only thing I can do is sit in a hot bath for a couple of hours and pray that that's going to work on the pain. There is no narcotic that helps the nerve pain. I do have, my neurologist gave me a drug that I can take at bedtime, which does help me sleep. But God love him, my poor husband. He sits here and he's helpless and there's nothing he can do. He'll try to run me a hot bath. He'll try to rub on my legs and just do something to make me feel better. But all of this is preventable. We are so overusing these antibiotics. And I spent 2 years in this terrible pain from this back injury. I have this surgery. It's amazing. My back is great. I don't have any more problems with my back. And then now I have to deal with this from the fluoroquinolones. I never needed an antibiotic for 2 years. When I started using my plexus supplements, no one in my house has had a sick visit or needed antibiotics in 2 years because we keep our immune system very, very strong with these supplements. But in just a matter of a week, my life was totally turned upside down again by these drugs. And I don't want to see that happen to other people. It is so frustrating when you're speaking to someone, and for me, it happens 5 to 8 times a day, and you will be thinking a word and you'll say another word. And I'm in a job where I have this team of people. I'm in network marketing, and it's all about people and relationships, and I need to be able to clearly speak to my team and convey. So every day my husband and I pray that we're not going to continue to get worse, that we're not going to develop into some of the things like the MS and the RA and the ALS and the Parkinson's, and that God's going to totally heal my body and I'm going to go back to being whole again. But I see so many people suffering, and I want people to know not to take these drugs unless you have anthrax and you have been deemed allergic to every other drug out there, which I just don't believe. Don't let your doctors give you the fluoroquinolone drugs: Cipro, Levaquin, Levafloxacin, Avalox. I'm trying to think of all of them, and I'm probably saying them wrong. The fluoroquinolone drugs are horrible. They're poisonous. Google the stories about the head of the FDA and the information she withheld because it benefited her husband's company. Learn about these things. Know what you're putting into your body. I don't want to see anyone go through what I go through, where there are days when it's hard for me to get out of the bed and walk. And I think God's trying to teach me something, because I used to look at people who said they had fibro and some of these chronic pain issues, and I was always like, oh my Lord, that's not a real thing. They are just being lazy. Get off your butt, go move, go exercise, come for a run with me. And now that I have to live with chronic pain, I get it. And I have a lot more empathy, and I feel stupid and I feel terrible for thinking that way about people who suffered from chronic pain. It's a terrible way for me to have to learn, but I've learned my lesson. And my thoughts get away from me, so I have to regroup for just a minute. I didn't think I'd have one of these during making this video, but I'm not going to stop the video and start over. Give me just a second. Okay, so I want you to go back and think about 20, 30 years ago. Did you know young people in their late teens, 20s, and 30s, tons of them, coming down with fibromyalgia, RA, MS, all the lupus, all of these things? You didn't see it back then. Well, nowadays, if you know people who are struggling with those things, I challenge you to go to them and ask them if in the last 10 years were they ever given any of these fluoroquinolone antibiotics. I can tell you, I do it every time I meet someone now that has one of these conditions, and 9 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10 will tell me, yes, I've had Cipro. Yes, I've had Levaquin. It's not a coincidence. It's really not. And I am on a mission to advocate for people suffering with this. I'm a member of so many support groups, and I would love to be able to go in and tell the people in these support groups about our amazing Plexus supplements and how much they've helped me, but I don't want people to think I'm just trying to sell them something, so I keep it to myself. I have to pray about that and find a way to bring it up, because I know how much the supplements have helped me, and I know how much worse my issues could have been if I wasn't on this regimen of amazing supplements for my gut, for my health. So my point in all this is I want my friends to know that I'm coming out about all this. And if you are talking to me and I say something kind of crazy and I correct myself, that's why. And if we have plans and I cancel them at the last minute, it's because I had a really bad flare-up. I had to cancel a lot of things this morning. And I said, you know what, I'm going to brush my hair, I'm going to brush my teeth, and I'm going to make a video, because it's been a really crappy 12 hours, the last 12 hours, and I want people to know what's going on. And I want people to be aware when you're giving your family antibiotics, of the dangers of some of these drugs. And I will put a link to my blog in the comments. And if you go to my blog, it's brand new. There's not a lot there yet, but I'm putting links to stories in the news about fluoroquinolones so that we can all be educated. And to my amazing husband and my kids, really I only have one child left at home, and his name is Reed. And so he sees it every day. Ben and Reed, y'all have just been so amazing. And when I'm having a really bad pain day, you take such good care of me, and I don't know what I would do without you guys. And same goes for all of my good friends who know about this and have been loving me anyway lately and not thinking that I'm a big whiny baby. So I love you guys. I love my Plexus family. You guys are amazing. You're the best. And I really want people to know that you don't have to take these drugs. There are other options out there that won't harm your health, in some cases even more than the infection that they were given to you for. So that's my story. I know it was a little long. I'm going to keep everyone posted on my recovery from the fluoroquinolones on this blog. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, everyone.